Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. I was just thinking about how truly, life is the way. And to truly live life takes acceptance of death. And in acceptance of death, you can truly live present in reality, present in the now, in this time, aware and appreciative of everything that you really have. That's something I've been thinking about this week a lot, is appreciation. And for me personally, I deeply appreciate this life that I have, this earth that we live on. I appreciate humanity. I appreciate all of you, and just having my connection that I have with humanity and with individual people, my family members, my friends, my students, just everybody. And there's so much value in these connections, and just our connection from spirit to spirit, from person to person. And I appreciate having the resources that we have. I appreciate the opportunities I have in my life. And, something that the Dalai Lama would talk about is, if you're given a life where you have time, in other words, you're not just caught up in some kind of struggle for survival and that kind of thing, but you actually have a good life where you have free time, like many of us here in America for sure do, and many throughout the world. Then really it's your responsibility to use that time wisely. And the Dalai Lama points at using that time to develop a spiritual life. And I agree with that. And who knows when this time may come again, where you have such a life. And times like we're going through right now, really, for me, they ring the bell louder. Strike the mission bell. It rings loudly. And, for all who do hear the call of the Spirit, for all who do hear the ringing of the mission bell, if you're given such a life where you have time to actually embrace that, to actually heed the call, then I implore you to do so, best your ability. Seek and you will find. I'm appreciative of having had such a life. When I was young, my life just was like, I wanted to be devoted to music and being a rock star and all these egotistical ventures. And while I have, I think, been blessed musically to achieve a lot, which I'm so thankful for, even that has been something that's been very much just a part of my connection with Spirit. And I feel like what has occurred in my life has been that even as I was young and had these aspirations for stardom, all these big dreams, that my life took a different direction. The bell of the Spirit sounded loudly, clearly. And even though it put me in a position where I felt like I had to swim upstream or swim against the stream of the flow of our culture in the direction everybody else seemed to be heading, I knew it was the right thing to do. And I mean, my life has been lived heeding that call, and I'm very grateful for having had the chance to do that, because it's taken me to places, so to speak, beyond anything of what I could have imagined. The spiritual connections and abilities, and just everything that has happened, and all my connections with like everybody in my life, and how events have unfolded, and how I've been able to help others through those, and how much I've grown through all of it is something that I'm really appreciative of. So, and I say this without ego. I'm just trying, I'm really just reflecting here. And just kind of using this video time to do that tonight, I suppose. But, there's a lot of letting go in what I'm saying, too. It's this idea of, again, if embracing life means also accepting death, then there's a lot of that is letting go. That is letting go of my grip, my ego's need to have like a death grip on reality, or on what it thinks is reality, or rather its control, its supposed control on reality. It's being able to let go of all that. Trying to control everything, and trying to act like I'm in control, and that I know better than the universe, and coming into reality takes a lot of acceptance and a lot of letting go of that, that ego's need for control, and sort of getting past your own ego projections and all of that. It takes a lot of letting go, because there's a lot of things that are within us that we carry from our past. Whether it's childhood, teenage years, and it can be big events, like things like, for me, my mother passing, and my father dying. Did I say mother passing? I'm going to say mother leaving. Maybe she's passed at this point. Anyway, whether it's big events like that, or even just like little things, like no matter how perfect how good of a childhood you had, there's stuff there that you bring with you. And again, it could be big things. It could be things, especially things that are tied to our family, in particular, our parents. No matter how awesome they were, there's things there that take facing, and processing through, and really letting go of. And the more we let go of these things, the more we can more fully be ourselves, and live fully in the present as ourselves. Without these things of our past, pulling us down, holding us back, and this kind of thing. And it's so important that we do that, because unfortunately these things do pull us back and weigh us down if we're not aware of them. We just try to lose ourselves in the outer world. No matter how much you try to lose yourself to the outer world, you will always have these things inside that you need to let go of. And again, the problem here is that these things start to create patterns in our lives, patterns that we're not even aware of. Again, it's our ego that tells us, oh no, I'm in control. I got this. When really, we might just be living out, some patterns, whether that's in our relationships, it's in our, connections with others, it's in how we are socially, how we are at making money and all that kind of stuff, especially if you see yourself running into the same pattern over and over and over again, you need to really look at that, right? And again, that takes a lot of letting go. That takes a lot of setting my ego down and being able to be willing to look at myself and look at my inner self and see who I really am, like what's happening there, like what state am I actually in, like are there things that are running me, and yeah, this stuff's so important. I tend to think of it as one way to think about it anyway is it's kind of like you got your the shit tank in there that you need to go diving down into and clean, right? Because it's filling up. You got all this shit from your childhood or teenage years or whatever it is, right? It could even just be stuff like somebody pissed you off at the gas station or on the road or whatever it is, kind of thing, right? You need to get in there and just clean that out and whatever, let it go, that kind of thing. The letting go is the cleaning out. And it's like, as you really start to get down in there, it's like you got the main shit that you go through, but then there's also the shit gunked on the walls and whatever, and as you start to get that, like big chunks start to come up, like the more you kind of get rid of shit, it's like the big stuff starts to come up. And so it's, anybody that's going to go through that process needs to be prepared for that, needs to be prepared for the big stuff coming up and having to continually face that and accept it and let it go. I've talked about this process of surrendering to your emotions and just letting go so that these emotions can process. And it's like, the technique here, the letting go technique, is essentially, so you have this emotion before you, right? It could be fear, it could be anything. And you just face it. You face it. Don't try to ignore it. Too often we get like an emotion we don't want to experience. Like, no, I don't want to feel that right now, and we try to shield ourselves from it or even just run from it because we just want to experience good feelings and that kind of thing. But again, these negative emotions keep getting in the way and keep getting in the way, of experiencing these positive emotions. So we really just have to process this stuff through, right? So the letting go technique here is to face into these emotions, to accept them. It's a process of acceptance. So you're facing your emotions and just surrender to it. Just surrender to it. And let go. Just keep letting go. Keep letting go. And it might come up. It might even get stronger, right? It might continue to just keep coming up and get stronger. That's okay. Keep accepting it. Keep letting go, no matter how hard it is. Just keep letting go. And what you'll find is that these emotions will eventually run out. And once it does, you feel this sort of peaceful calm, a sort of sense of letting go, of having let go. We find a calm, peaceful state, literally feeling free, lifted of that burden. So, it's okay for things to keep coming up and keep letting them go. It's part of the process. But you get to that point, that space where you feel clear, where you feel calm, peaceful, and it starts to give you back pieces of yourself things that you just maybe had forgotten about, or that you kind of took for granted, or it's kind of just, it's almost like a meeting with an old friend, right? Where you're just like, oh, there you are, like I knew you were there the whole time, like, but it feels good. It's sort of a coming into yourself, and again, this is how we start to get rid of those negative patterns that were blindly controlling us. And yeah, so this letting go process is actually a really important thing. It itself is doing your inner work, doing your spiritual work. There's a really good book by David R. Hawkins called Letting Go. For anybody interested on the subject, I highly recommend it. It's a great book. It's the kind of book that really opens people's eyes and has a big effect on them, kind of thing. It changes people internally. People I've talked to that read that book have had awesome experiences with it, so I do recommend it. But, yeah, by getting out these things that these sort of ego structures that we've been holding on to, by letting go of these things as they come up, if we do start to become conscious of the fact that we were holding on to it. It was an ego thing of our own that we were actually holding on to it. It's kind of like tension in the body that you're not aware of until it relaxes, until you let it go, right? And then you're like, oh gosh, I wouldn't even realize I was holding all that tension. It's like that. These things we were holding on to, we realize, oh, I'm holding on to this stuff, like it's okay for me to let go. So what I'm talking about here is embracing life and living life and accepting everything that is. And that goes all the way. It goes as far as accepting death, right? Like, I accept the fact that I'm going to die someday. I've been through so much of, in my life, I've been through so much of experiencing death around me, family members and friends and that kind of thing, that, I haven't tried to shield myself from it, but instead I've embraced it. And, it's always been an awakening call. It's always been a thing that calls my heart to awakening to want to be there for the people, the other people experiencing this and that kind of thing. Like, there's always a lot of spiritual connection and that kind of thing. And it makes me appreciate everybody more and love everybody more. And it's transformed me into more of a good man than I ever could have, become, left to my own devices. Life transforms us. It grows us. It nurtures us. We have to be open to that. We have to be accepting of that. And we have to get out of our own way. We have to let go of our own shit, our own bullshit, and actually leave it behind so that we can actually live in the now. It's like, living in the now isn't just like this moment right here, right? It's in this moment right here, there's also two streams flowing from opposite directions, one from the past and one from the future, right? And that's all wrapped into this eternal now. And that's, to live that stream flowing from the past, we need to let go of the things that are actually holding ourselves back, because these things are still, they're meant to be our past, and they're meant to transform us in certain ways. They're meant to make us grow in certain ways, and we hold ourselves back from that when we don't take the responsibility of doing our inner work, of facing our inner lives, and doing our letting go. If we just try to keep losing ourselves in the outside world, kind of thing, it's like, really we'll just lose ourselves. So, again, you got to go deep. You got to get to your core, to your center, find out who you are. And, this whole idea of the now being, not only just the present now, but also this stream from the past and stream from the future. I think this is part of what, from this perspective, I think you can reflect on the, what's it called, the Christmas Story, is it? With the, the Ebenezer Scrooge, and the story of, he has the visions that come to him in the night of the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. And he has these experiences there, and his past was things that had hurt him, if I remember correctly, and like seeing his mom, in the version I'm thinking of, seeing his mom made him weep, and that kind of thing, and he sees what an influence that was on who he's become. Those are the things inside that, parts of ourselves we didn't know, right? See, he thought he was tough and gruff, Scrooge, and like really inside he had these vulnerabilities, these vulnerable emotions and stuff that he was never willing to face, and so he was first led to face these, right? And then I'm just kind of riffing off this now, but I think that's what allowed him to maybe experience the ghost of Christmas Present, was having experienced those emotions for the past that he was harboring. But anyway, so next he sees the ghost of Christmas Present, and he sees his connection with others and how he's been treating them really bad and that kind of thing. And again, maybe that's, I would say that that's from those past things that he had been holding on to that, had made him bitter because he was never willing to face them. So they just, kind of shriveled him up inside. So instead of having a rich inner life, he had a poor inner life, and so he treated those around him like shit. And even the employee that needed him, relied on him the most, kind of thing, was just barely scrounging by and had a bad situation, a sick kid, and all that kind of stuff. A lot of kids, and anyway, in the version I'm taking of anyway. But yeah, and then he sees the ghost of Christmas future and its death. And, he sees his own gravestone. He has to face the fact that he will die. Right? That change that is the future. Right? And, when he faces that, he's able to actually live in the now, live in the present more fully. He suddenly appreciates. He suddenly wants to have connections with others. He wants to share his wealth. He wants to make sure that, the people around him are well off, and that, they're celebrating Christmas right, like he feels that Christmas spirit and goes out and, gets a bird or whatever he gets and takes it to their house and they all celebrate. So yeah, I hope you're seeing what I'm drawing together there. The spirit of that. I think there's some wisdom to that if you can look directly into look at it in the core and face that. But yeah, right now, talking about the quarantine situation, it's week 5, and it seems like everybody's getting just kind of anxious, bored, and that kind of thing. So like, people are trying to dig up plans. People are getting complaining and saying, that kind of thing. There's even been some protesting in D.C. kind of thing, and I think that we all need to be resilient, and that we, need to practice a little self-discipline here. And I'm not trying to say what's right and what's wrong here in the situation for anybody to do. What I'm trying to say is, like, let's not act out of a place of just anxious unrest. You know, like that's honestly just us getting caught up on our ego. You know, and again, having to feel like we have control of everything and saying, you know, like, I can't take this anymore, I'm going to do it, you know, like, I'm going to go do whatever I want, I can get this disease if I want. Like, that's a pretty selfish attitude. And, you know, really taking care of your body, that is good morals too. So you do want to take care of yourself, and of course you want to take care of the people around you. So I think, you know, it's maybe a question of good morals, right? But certainly on a personal level, you know, acting out of a place where you're, you know, really thinking and you know, really having the right care and not just reacting and kind of jumping the gun, being impatient and that kind of thing, but having actually fully thought through what it is you're doing and being aware fully of what you are doing. That kind of thing is going to be a much better place to act out of. So I would encourage anybody watching this to just be resilient and to keep opening up your heart and keep accepting this, and, you know, be reminded to be appreciative of everything we have. That's what I hope that this maybe does for you, is, you know, reminds you to just be appreciative and caring. Because again, you know, like, for those of us that do still have an income, which that's another thing I'm really thankful for, is, you know, there's a lot of people that are hurting right now and don't even have an income. And man, that's rough to all of a sudden get sprung on you. Especially when you got like bills and all that kind of stuff, let alone, you know, yourself and a family to feed and shelter. But yeah, so I'm really appreciative that you know, I'm doing fine through this, and it seems my family members are doing fine and my friends around me. You know, most everybody's doing okay, and you know, I think we should be appreciative of that. You know, and I think that also we should face death. I think that that's absolutely a part of it. I mean, that we are facing that. A good amount of people have died, even though it's like, you know, okay, the relative numbers are small, I guess, and what people are saying, and they're comparing it to like maybe a flu season, or saying we've had worse flu seasons and that kind of thing. But I forget what the number in America was, but I think I remember hearing something like over 35,000. And that's a lot of people to have died recently. And, you know, think about around the world, there's all these souls passing. There's all these souls passing into the spiritual world kind of thing. You know, and I think that part of this whole thing is like, I think that's part of it, is these souls passing into the afterlife kind of thing. You know, I think that after we pass, that we enter the spiritual world, and I think that, you know, there's things to do there that, you know, I think that the dead very much play a part of what's happening here, you know, on this plane of action, of this plane of existence, you know, here in the physical world, this life that we're all living here on Earth. I think that the dead do play a part on what's going on here. In fact, I think they play a huge part. I think that that's a big part of what's going on here. You know, take that with a grain of salt. You know, I don't know anybody's beliefs, or, you know, what your thoughts might be around that kind of stuff. So I can only, you know, speak my truth, and, you know, hopefully open and accepting enough to hear it, even if you don't agree with it. And, you know, just give a little witness and approval, I guess, on you know, that kind of thing. If somebody's speaking their truth is always a good thing. And, you know, again, there's all these souls that are passing right now, and, you know, maybe you know somebody, or, you know, a few people that have passed recently. I know a couple myself, and, you know, I think that this is a time for, you know, your prayers or your meditation or whatever it is that is your go-to in times like this. And I think that, if you know somebody who's passed, to really hold that love in your heart for them, and, keep that connection, like uphold them through love, kind of thing. And, 'cause what I've learned when my father passed is that, the dead are with us, and that we are connected, and that, like, if it's your father that's passed, or your mother, or a sibling, or a friend, whoever it is, it's that they will always be with you. That connection is real. Like, what you're feeling is real, and it's okay, to feel everything you're feeling, all the emotions that are coming up and that kind of thing, just to accept them. It's okay to just, accept all of these emotions that may come up. And again, to keep the love in your heart and uphold them through that love, because it's so important. I know that there's the bigger concerns of all this, like things like the economy and everybody's welfare and resources, and taking care of the sick and all that kind of thing. And it's and I have nothing but compassion for those who are suffering. I think what I'm pointing at is that I think that there's also this deep inner aspect to all of this, and I know I've spoken about this, but it bears repeating, that even though there's these things happening on a macro level, there's also these things happening on a micro level. And what I mean by that is, like, individually with each of us. Like, we've each been put in a place where we're, basically inside our homes, and, it's just us inside. And so we're having to be more internal, be more reflective, and that kind of thing. And I think it's important that we go through our inner processes and really think about what's going on and experience the emotions we have with it and that kind of thing, and to be very accepting of these emotions and very accepting of the things happening around us, and to do whatever inner work you do. And for some people, by the way, I know I talk about meditation and even prayer, but like, some people's inner work is maybe something like working out, right? Or playing guitar, or reading a book, whatever it is. So whatever is your thing, right? So for some people it's surfing, right? It's so cool. Whatever is your thing is like, as much as you can, you should be doing what you can. I know maybe you can't get out and surf right now or whatever it is, but do your thing. Maybe learn something new, whatever it is. But it's time for us to really embrace our time and sort of and turn our fires on, rev up our engines, and do something with that. Something constructive, something creative, something that's good for you, good for your family, the people around you, your community, whatever it is. Like, do something good. This could be something like, creating music, or meditating and achieving a lot spiritually, maybe learning how to meditate, learning how to play music, or do something else new. Or for some of you, I'm sure it's things like, you're painting your house, or you're doing things, that you haven't had the time for the last years, that kind of thing. So, whatever it is, I think that there's a couple of basic enemies here, and I think one of them is laziness. There's three, like, inner demons, if you will, I think right now that we can look at, that we may be facing, and one of those is laziness. You're just sitting around the house, you end up just kind of eating all the time, doing whatever, that kind of thing. Like, don't let yourself kind of through this. You want to make yourself, right? You want to make yourself start to rise, right? do something good, right? Grow out of it. Use this time wisely. I mean, for a lot of us, this might just be free time that you're not going to get again. So that might mean remodeling the house, you know, or finally doing some meditation and like getting to know yourself and processing some of your deep stuff through, you know, that kind of thing. I would encourage you to be active on both fronts, really, the internal and the external. You know, like keeping your house clean and that kind of thing, I think is something that we're probably all pretty revved up to do right now, and you should be. And, you know, keeping yourself clean, taking care of yourself. And then, you know, also though, I think, you know, just meditating, doing whatever it is, all that kind of stuff, right? So, again, that's the first demon would be laziness, right? A second one, I think, is, well, just all of our communication just being through, you know, our devices, like our phone and our email and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm not going to tell anybody that they need to go start being around people. I know it's kind of unavoidable at this point. And really, that's, I think, where appreciation does come in, is the fact that, you know, we can appreciate the fact that we do have these devices so that we can actually connect and share love with each other and, you know, information and help each other out and all that kind of thing. So I think, you know, as long as we're using our technology wisely in this sense, which I think a lot of us are. I mean, imagine if this whole thing had happened in, like, say, the 90s or something, when, you know, we really didn't have all this stuff. You know, we'd all just kind of been in the dark, right? Like, that would have sucked. Not being able to talk to each other like we are. And, you know, like, I mean, my niece FaceTimes me, like, almost every day, you know, that kind of thing, and I love it. And, you know, I've been talking to family members and friends, you know, pretty regularly, and we've all been lifting each other up and that kind of thing. So I think as long as we keep using it in a good way, that's a good thing. You know, it's funny. I did have dinner with a couple friends where I basically went over to their house and we literally set up in the driveway. Where they were on one side, I was on the other. I brought my own chair and my own dinner tray and my own plate and utensils, and, you know, just stood away. They came over, just threw some plate on my food, kind of thing, and we hung out like that. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. It was good to get that one-on-one, that face-to-face time, that you know, actually being present there with each other, getting that feel for each other and that kind of thing. Gosh, that's so important. And I miss having that so much. And again, this is where appreciation comes in. Like, I really have so much appreciation for just such a basic thing as having a friend, a family member, just in the room with me. You know, like, what a great thing. You know, what a light in my day, you know, that kind of thing. And especially even just like a hug, you know, a kiss, you know, a high five, or a handshake, or, you know, whatever it is. You know, all that stuff's great. It's fun. It's nice. Sure would be nice. Yeah, so, you know, on that note, obviously, you know, it's been 5 weeks since I have actually touched somebody else, so I do miss that. And, you know, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. You know, it's not driving me nuts. I'm still doing a lot of recording, meditating, and reading, and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I don't mind being a little bit vulnerable and saying that, you know, I do miss touch. In fact, there's a song I was singing about called "Touch" by Daft Punk. Check it out. It's a beautiful song, and especially if you're somebody that's maybe living alone like I am too, it might be like emotionally powerful for you, right? So check it out. It's "Touch" by Daft Punk. But anyway, yeah. So let's see. Again, we have this idea of, like, you know, not being lazy. You know, of this idea that, like, a lot of our communication right now is just through our digital things, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I think that a third demon, though, for us, just to complete the thought, guess I could put it as just trying to go back to normal, back to the way, you know, things are and that kind of thing. You know, and really a third demon you could say is selfishness. You know, like right now is not the time to be selfish, it's the time to be caring. I mean, obviously you got to look after yourself, you got to take care of yourself, you got to take care of your family, that kind of thing. But, you know, it is a time for caring and, you know, selfless deeds and acts as you can. But, you know, what I was saying, though, is, you know, I think that if we just try to go back to the way things were and just be like, okay, that was just a weird blip, let's get right back in there and just do exactly as we were doing before, I think we're going to have missed our lesson here. And I think if we miss our lesson, we're going to pay the consequences. You know, sooner or later, sometime or another. I think that we need to reintegrate intelligently. I think that we need to have a plan. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. You know, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, but maybe just encourage you to think about that too. Like, especially, you know, if like myself, you're experiencing so much in this time and you feel so like awakened by it, aware of it. Like, I feel it to be such an awakener, right? I've been expressing that. And, you know, if you're feeling anything of that, whether you think it's divine intervention, whether you just think it's, you know, just an eye-opener economically, you know, as far as nature goes, right? As far as valuing human life and all that, it's like, you know, because it's such a tough thing, isn't it? It's hard to put your finger on because it's like there's so many people that are suffering, and that's terrible, right? We have nothing but compassion for everybody. And, you know, there's this whole aspect of like, we're like, whoa, all of a sudden we just have to be quarantined in our own homes, that kind of thing. And that's just like, that's totally different for us. I've never experienced that in my life. And, you know, then on this whole other, you know, macro level, it's like we're looking at nature, and it's like suddenly it's got a break from humanity's like polluting of it and all that. It's getting a break from our shit, basically. And it's like, you know, they're saying that like in certain like cities in China and stuff like that, like where they could always see the mountains, and for the past like whatever 30 or however many years they haven't been able to, that suddenly now they're able to see them again. So it's like the smog is clearing and stuff. So, I mean, on that level, looking at that just by itself is actually a beautiful thing in its own way. Again, you know, the price is steep, isn't it? And but I think that points to the fact that we've all been living in such a way, our culture has been existing, and therefore we have been living in such a way that we haven't been in harmony with that. We haven't been in harmony with nature, right? Not to sound, you know, woohoo about it, but, you know, we've been living in such a way where, you know, we've been doing this damage to the earth. And it's like, if we really are doing enough damage to where we're actually endangering the life of the earth, well, shit, that's scary as hell. And I think a lot of people have been feeling that fear and for a while. And, you know, which again, I think the first step to that is letting go of that fear. But, you know, I think step one, letting go. But it's also that, what am I trying to say? In this time, we are seeing this like clearing of nature and stuff. You know, and so hopefully this is a good thing for nature, right? Because if nature survives, then we can survive, right? And it's sad, it breaks my heart that we've had to experience something that hurts us and kills people so that nature can heal, right? I think that there needs to be a reintegration plan. Oh man, if we could pull it together, wouldn't that be just a blessing? Where we, as we start to reintegrate, as we come out of quarantine and all that, that we can actually have our society start to operate in ways that are more friendly and to nature and more like better taking care of nature, that kind of thing, so that that's not an actual threat in our future. Because we can't destroy the earth. I mean, it's a fact. No matter how wrapped up you get in with the political and economic concerns maybe around the issue, it is a fact that if this earth is unsuitable for life, that we can't live here. So really, that's a big priority, is that we have to take care of this earth. And so, I would love to see us actually reintegrate in such a way to where we're awakened to that fact. So again, I think that there's, some things that are big eye-openers for us and really should be on every level. Whether you're talking about these big macro concerns, like, how we live in connection to the earth, how we live in connection to each other, like appreciating the earth, appreciating each other, and, bringing that appreciation for life with us as we move forward and, achieve what it is we do with our lives. But also like economically and like just how things have been set up, how we've been living in such a way to where maybe, we weren't ready for such an event to suddenly hit us and turn things. So we need to grow and be stronger, more adaptive, more resilient as an outcome of this. And we need to be living in harmony with ourselves, with nature, with each other, so that way, as we're all moving forward, we can actually move forward in a way where, again, life is the path, right? Life is the way. Because, the Tao, the great way, right? This is the great way, the life, the great way, the Tao. And what is against Tao soon will cease to exist, right? It's one of the passages from the Tao Te Ching. So, we need to use this as an awakener to life, right? Bring that level of awareness, intelligence, heart, awakened intent, awakened willpower to everything that we're doing. So we'll see how that goes. But no, I have faith, in humanity, and I have faith in our purpose here, in our mission, on this plane of growth, this earth, in this great cosmos. And, I think we're going to be okay. I think these are tough times, but I think that they're going to make us grow. And, those of you who are taking this as an awakener, and, it's like for all of us, it's shaking us to the core in some way or another, right? So it is an awakener. And I hope you're hearing that, and I hope you're in tune with your own mind and your own heart enough to face up to that. Let's take this, though, as a reminder, right? To remember as we move forward and, hopefully into more peaceful and abundant times, to remember what we've had here, so that we may not, live with regret and live in such a way to where we're slowly becoming more one with death again. But we continue to live on this path of life, okay? So in all love and wisdom I urge you to remember, right? So through this, keep opening up. Keep opening up. Keep accepting. Keep growing. Keep being awesome because you know you are. I love all of you. Peace. Good night. God bless you. Keep your spirits up. We got this.